Hey everyone, in this video I'm going to show you how I finally decided to model concrete on my layout using expansion cement and some molds. I'll show you how I did it. Okay, so before we get into the how-to of this video, quick little backstory on how I came to the decision on using this product here. I did some experimenting with ways to make concrete for my layout using foam core and smoother material by Woodland Scenics. Wasn't really happy with these, so I decided not to use them and do a little bit more research. I came across a video by TSG Multimedia where he interviewed Chris Brimley of Exacto on how he used this type of product to make foundations for the buildings, concrete foundations. So I thought, well, why not use that for concrete slabs for my parking lots and roadways on my layout? And so that's what I decided to do. I experimented a little bit and I was really happy with the results. And so in this video I'm going to show you how I went about creating something like this. And I'll give you a quick little close-up there. Looks really convincing. It's pretty strong, so I'm not worried about it breaking too easily. It is thin, so I do have to reinforce it a little bit. But overall, I think it makes a very, very nice, convincing concrete slab. Alright, and here's everything I'm going to be using to create this concrete pad. Here's the anchoring cement, just some rockite that I picked up at the hardware store. I'm going to be making a mold out of this foam core board, and this is really useful for this, mostly because this stuff will not stick to the foam, so that's good. So I can easily peel this concrete pad out of the foam mold. Another nice thing about this foam is that the texture of the foam has a nice concrete texture to it, and it's pretty much to scale for the scale that I'm working in. So that'll be really nice as well. I have this little piece of aluminum window screen. I'm going to be using this as like a miniature rebar. The thickness of this pad is going to be the thickness of this foam, which is 3/16 of an inch, which is pretty thin. I mean, it's tough, but it can easily be cracked, so I'm going to use this to reinforce it. I'm going to draw a template using this 2" by 3" block. I just happen to have this laying around, so I thought that was a nice example size. We'll mix up the rockite, pour it in the mold, and then we'll get started there. Okay, first thing we're going to do is draw out this template. Alright, I'm going to give myself enough room on each side to build up the walls of this mold. I don't want it to be too thin. I want to be able to have some rigidity to it. So what I'm going to do is, it's arbitrary value, but something like that should be good. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is cut up this piece to make the sides of the mold. Okay, so now I just need to, actually this side is actually perfect. Decided to use my square here. You can use a ruler though. Just want to make sure it's nice and straight. And these two are going to be the thickness of this. Alright, so I just need to cut these out. There we go, now we have our walls for our mold. Let's start putting this thing together. Alright, all the pieces of the walls for the mold are all cut out. All I have to do is take this paper backing off and glue them together. Now I didn't really need to draw a template. I could have just put the block there and had these against it, but at least I know the approximate size of the piece that I need, so all is good. Okay, so next we're going to peel off all the paper backings. Alright, and now this. Now you want to take both sides of the backing off, because if you don't, this paper is going to curl that foam, and that's not going to be good. So you don't want any restriction on either side of the foam. There we go, approximately right there, and then we'll just glue it down. Now I'll let it dry, and when it's dry, then I'll remove the block. Just want to make sure it doesn't move on me. Alright, so I've noticed that the glue is starting to push the foam out a little bit as it's expanding or whatnot. So I'm just going to take a little bit of painter's masking tape here. Just reinforce it along the sides so it doesn't move at all. I just cut up some on the piece of glass here. There we go. That's not going anywhere now. That'll help it. So now it's time to take this block out of the mold. Another reason I don't want to add too much glue in here, because otherwise this will stick to the mold, and we don't want that. So next we'll mix up some of this stuff. And just want to make sure I have enough. I've done this a couple times already, so I kind of have an idea. But it's never a bad idea to make more than what you need. You don't want to have not enough. That should be good. Get this out of the way. That's a lot of dust. Okay. Now with this stuff, according to the instructions, you want to add just enough water to make it into like a batter type of consistency. So we're not going to add too much water. I just want to get it to the right consistency here. Just a little bit more. Because if it's too watery, it doesn't have enough strength when it's curing or when it's setting to be very effective. So you want to make sure that you get it to the right consistency here. So just, that's pretty good. And then the instructions also state on this particular product to let it set for about a minute first. Is that pourable? That should pour pretty good. Yeah, let it set for a minute, and then afterwards stir it up again, and then we'll be back in a minute. Okay, I'm just going to stir it up again. Now, letting it set for that minute allows a lot of those air bubbles to come up to the surface. So it takes a lot of air out of it. Now I'm adding a little bit more air back into it by doing this, but I'm already noticing that the texture is smoothing out a little bit. So it's not as rough looking as it is right away. It kind of looks just like batter. So don't want to eat this stuff. Alright, so then what we're going to do is we're going to pour that into the mold. Yep, a little bit more. Right up to the top. It's okay if you go a little bit over. This is going to be the bottom of it anyways. And then we're going to trowel the top. As we're going to take this screen, aluminum screen, window screen, and that's going to be our miniature rebar. And we're just going to set that right in there. Okay, so now this stuff typically takes 15 minutes to harden, and then an hour for it to be completely securable. So if I were to mount a bolt in the floor and use this anchoring cement for that bolt, after an hour I could use some pretty heavy machinery with it. But in order for this to get to the consistency that I want to be completely dried, it's going to take about 24 hours. So I'm going to let this sit for a day. We're going to come back and then we'll continue on with the next steps. Okay, so it's been approximately 4 hours. I know I said I was going to wait a day, but that's mostly for when it's ready for me to start carving it out and putting some details into it. It's set enough now so that I can actually take it out of the mold. That's not going to hurt it. But as you'll see in a second, I'm not really comfortable carving it just yet. And I'll show you here. So we're going to take this out of the mold very carefully. There we go. And as you can see, it has that concrete texture. But you notice it's pretty dark compared to this other side here. And that's because a lot of the moisture is still not quite fully either evaporated yet or set in, or whatever the process is that's going on here. Some sort of chemical process in there. And so I don't really want to carve it just yet. I have a piece over here that's been sitting for a little bit more than 24 hours. And as you can see, the difference in the color right there, all the moisture is out of this one. And so I'm comfortable carving this one up and putting some details in. I want to wait a little bit for this. I'm not sure if that's going to matter, but since these are really thin and I'm going to be making a lot of these and I don't really want a lot of waste, I'm just not really going to take the chance. I'm going to wait until it's fully set, and that's usually at 24 hours. Now that's for 3/16 of an inch thickness. I have another one that's 1/16, and this only took about, I'd say, 12 hours for all the moisture to leave it. So obviously thickness matters at the evaporation rate or whatever's going on. And so this one's ready for any detailing that I want to do. These really thin ones, I'm just experimenting to see if I really want to go this thin for certain sections. Otherwise, I'll keep most of the bulk of the concrete pads at this thickness here. So with that, I'm going to let this dry for another 18 to 20 hours, and then we'll come back and we'll start detailing this one up. Alright, so the concrete slab has had a chance to lighten up a little bit. It's still a little darker than some of the other ones, but that's okay. We'll just keep on going with it. So the next step is to start giving it some cracks and crevices and things like that. So all I'm going to do is just take a ruler, file, and an exacto knife with a dull blade. No sense in using a sharp one for this, since I'm just going to be chiseling away at some rock, essentially. So I don't want to dull up a new blade. So all I'm going to do is just do a few passes with file, just for an initial line. Doesn't have to be perfect for this, since it's just an example. Alright, blow away the dust. Now I have some initial lines I can start carving in further. So I'm just going to take this ruler again, follow the lines with the exacto blade, and this will give a nice fine, well, a deeper fine line, so that when we apply some weathering powders and such to it, it'll fill in the cracks really nice. Make sure you keep blowing away the dust. And just keep going until you like what you see. Okay, so now that we've got some larger lines here, we're going to go in and just going to make us some various random cracks and crevices, just to give it a sense that it's been weathered a little bit. And there's no rhyme or reason to this. I'm just going to randomly draw some lines. We'll start with, I always like to start with the these crossing lines here, where the various slabs would come together. Typically that's where they'll crack first. So we'll start there. Okay, that looks pretty good. Obviously, if it's newer concrete, you would just create less cracks. And so the next step, what I'm going to do is just take a little bit of water, and I'm just going to dab my finger in it, and I'm just going to rub it in the cracks just to get rid of all that extra concrete dust I've been creating along the way here. I'll dry that off, and when that's dry, we'll come back and we'll put some artist pastels in here and darken up the cracks and give it a little bit of a weathered look. Okay, so for this next step, I'm going to apply some artist pastels for some weathering. And these are just some pastels I got at Hobby Lobby, real cheap. And all I need to do is just figure out which value is the... Okay, so that looks like this one is the color of my concrete. So if I need to come back to this color, I could choose this one. We'll just go another shade darker until I find the one I like. Now, in most cases, I've already marked this one with a little check. I like to go about 3 shades darker for the look I'm going for. Obviously, choose the colors or shades of gray that you'd want to use. And so I'm going to use this one to fill in the cracks and darken it up a little bit. And to do that, all I'm going to do is take the edge of this knife create some powder and just rub it in. You can already see the cracks are filling in really nice. And the nice thing about not going too dark is that as I'm rubbing it around the entire slab, I'm not darkening up the rest of the concrete too much. So I can go darker if I need to, but I feel like this is a great starting point. And I'm just going to keep filling in the cracks until I find the look I'm going for. Alright, and there we go. Looks pretty good. Alright, so the next step after this is to seal it so that I don't ruin the weathering job I've done so far. Okay, so to seal this thing, got a couple options. We can use dull coat, or I've found that using Rust-Oleum Matte Clear does the exact same thing in this particular application. So all I'm doing is I'm sealing this powder into the concrete. So I don't really need anything too expensive to do that, as long as this will provide the same result. And I found in my testing that this does do the same thing. Now, I don't know if this is going to work better on plastic models versus this one to use as the dull coat. That I'm not sure, but for this particular application, it's perfectly fine. And obviously this is going to go a long way as compared to this little can. This was $6. This was, I think, $3.50. Obviously it'll last me longer, and if I'm doing a lot of concrete, this is the way to go for me. So all I have to do is go outside, give it a couple coats, and come back in, and we can start to work on the next phase. Now that the concrete slab has had the dull coat assigned to it, we're going to take some white glue. Just put a little dab over here. And with this next step, I'm just going to take some various Woodland Scenics ground foam, kind of a mix from all the other landscaping I've been doing, or landscaping, scenicking that I've been doing, and I'm just going to take this tiny T-pin, and because I'm working in N scale, I've got a very small scale to work with, so I'm just going to take and apply a little glue in various places here where I want vegetation to show up, and that'll settle in the cracks. Just enough. Take a little bit of this foam, just sprinkle it on, and then dump the excess into the container. And what's left is a nice little area of vegetation. And I'm just going to continue on with the rest of it and apply glue in various places and create some more weeds. Alright, and there we have it. We have a concrete slab that's been weathered, cracked, got some vegetation growing in there, and it's all ready to be installed onto the layout. Now some of the larger pieces I'll be sanding up the edges so they fit flush with each other. But other than that, it's pretty much ready to go. And that's how I've decided to do concrete slabs on my layout. Alright, and that concludes the video on how I decided to do concrete slabs for my layout. Now, one of the concerns with this particular layout was to keep it as light as possible. And I don't think this is going to add too much weight because it is really, really thin. Even though I'm going to have a lot of it, I don't think it'll add all that much. So, with that, I'd be curious to know your thoughts. Just leave a comment below, and as always, take care, and we'll see you next time.